These are some of the items I got for this project, starting with the Odyssey battery. I went with the Odyssey battery because of the great reviews it had on PRC. There were definitely other options that were a little bit cheaper, but they had very mixed reviews, so I thought I'd go and spend a few extra bucks and get the one that everybody said was working real good for them. Next is the battery separator. This is the one that Polaris sells, which from my understanding is the made by Sure Power, the same one that makes the 1314, which is a little bit cheaper, but due to the back order at the time I was wanting to do this project, I decided to go and get the one from Polaris. Few advantages from the one from Polaris. It does come with a few extra things, battery cables, a bar for your connection for your accessories, a few other things. Now, to look at the battery separator, it has got, I intend to mount it in this direction, and I will refer to these terminals as large right and large left, and small right and small left, but just note that it's mounted upside down. So, next, I personally wanted to run, well, this one comes with this bar to add your accessories to. However, to use that bar, you've got to use inline fuses. I wanted a connection point where I already have my fuses. So I ordered this little thing off eBay. I think it was around $20. It comes with fuses, slot 4 fuses, and a ground. That way, once I run this, I have a source for my power, a place to ground it to. I don't have to find somewhere else place to ground it or run the. Okay, when it comes to this, you definitely have options too. If you want the 1314, you could always just buy one of these strips to add your accessories. Or the local hardware store has a cheaper version of this, which simply doesn't have the hot or the ground. So, which means you would have to run each connection to the battery and the other side to a ground point or jumper one side. So I just spent a few extra dollars when I got one that allowed me to do all that at one time. This is the one I got off eBay. I just did a search for a fuse block with a ground. Next, I have a relay. This is a 70 amp relay. I purchased this simply so that when I wire this up, this will only be hot when my ignition is on. My understanding how this works is simply a pass-through. Once I get it connected correctly, then when the key's turned on, it'll allow the power to pass through here into this, and when I kill my power, I don't have to worry about any accessories being left on and running my battery down. In lieu of that, I've got this little fuse holder. I picked this up at the hardware store. I'm going to put a 70 amp fuse in it because this is a 70 amp relay, just to protect that. What I didn't check when I picked this up was what it was rated for, so I may have to replace this. I've been trying to search online. Anyway, I got that because it held the larger fuses that go all the way up to 100 amps, but I just don't know what this particular one's rated for. When I called the hardware stores, most of them needed to know what its use was. They didn't know the actual amps of the relays they had in stock. Advanced Auto Parts took the time to call their vendor and find out which one was a 70 amp relay. So that may help you if you want to get one of those. Also, if you're finding this video on YouTube, it'll be posted on prcforums.com. And you can go over there to read any posts from other members that have already done this project. If you get over there and you're not a member and you own any type of Polaris side-by-side, I highly recommend signing up. Just a wealth of knowledge there. I wouldn't have a clue what I was doing here if it wasn't for that site. Okay, at this point, I've pretty much done just what the instructions said. I dropped my Odyssey battery in the spare spot here. Then I started with this, and the first thing the instructions are going to tell you to do is put these 3 pieces together. There's the plate, the separator itself, and the bar. It's going to come with 6 screws, 4 washers, 4 nuts. 2 of the screws are tapered on the end, and that is to their self-tapping screws. And this plate lines up with some holes already here. Do be careful though, all 6 of the screws are about the same length, look the same, so you can actually put the wrong one in and the nut will thread on it and you'll have to take it back apart like I did. So find the 2 that are tapered and set those to the side. So basically you'll put 2 in, one here, one on the other side to mount this to the plate, here and at the top to mount this to the plate, and then mount the plate to the Ranger. Then next, this is a ground. This is what somebody else had did on the forum, so I just followed their lead on this. Since this is grounded to the frame, I just grounded this to the plate. Okay, and then the kit came with 4 wires, 3 red, 1 black. Now remember, I've got this upside down, but in this orientation, you would come to the right side, take the longest wire, run all the way over to your main battery post, and then the other 2 will both hook up to the opposite side together. They're shorter than the other one, the different lengths themselves though. The shortest of these 2, one will just go directly to this bar, and then the other comes to the positive side of your auxiliary battery. The black wire just goes from negative terminal one battery to negative terminal of the other battery. Note where I'm getting a lot of these instructions from, and the gentleman that did this here is on the prcforum.com. If you were actually go there and go to the search engine and just type in separator, you'll find a lot on this installation, and the particular post that I'm getting most of my information from is coming from, it's titled Dual Battery Wiring, and he actually has this flipped in the other orientation, and you can see that. Just to note why I flip this way is because I intend to mount my accessory fuse block here, and if this is flipped down here, I'm going to have wires coming up here and there. So it's going to get kind of tight. It's the reason I wanted this up here. Secondly, you got to leave yourself as much room as possible down here because there is a filter that you have to get to back in here. It's a reusable filter, collects dust. You have to rinse it out every now and then. So technically, this is where the instructions stop, and you can stop right here. You've got the dual battery system set up. Basically, at this point, it will only charge this battery when the main battery reaches somewhere between 13.2 and 13.5 volts. Secondly, it'll just, when you're running accessories from this battery, it will not drain your main battery, only your secondary battery, so you're never stranded. And third, you've got an accessory bar where you can plug in any accessories to here. Only problem with this is it's always hot, and you've still got a ground to either the frame or a terminal somewhere, and use inline fuses, and that's the reason I'm going to add this in. Others have added a similar fuse box, but most of the ones I've seen are still wired to always hot. This is where I'm kind of getting off the page, and I'm going to complicate things a little bit by adding in a relay here, which I can't grab at the moment. So it will only be hot when my key is on. Oh, another thing, if you do stop right here, you're not really getting the full use out of the separator. It has another option on this thing, which allows you to connect the 2 batteries when you need to. And as others have done on the forum, and where I've gotten the idea from, I'm going to do a simple connection to mine to where they only connect on startup, which means when I'm cranking the engine, it will let the power pass through, so both batteries are running. So if I am having a problem with the main battery, it will allow the secondary battery to help on startup. Very simple the way they explained it. Simply this middle connection here will run over to the solenoid, the passenger side of the solenoid right in here. My understanding is by simply taking that middle connection, connecting to this side of the solenoid, it will allow the 2 batteries to connect on startup. Now you have options there. Some choose to put this on a manual switch, meaning that they'll just click the switch on whenever they want to connect the 2 batteries, click it off. They don't recommend using a regular toggle switch in case you leave it on, you don't know it's on, and when you think you're just running down your accessory battery, you're actually running down both batteries. So either a switch with a light or a push button switch that you have to hold in while they're connected. So for my next step, I will connect this to the solenoid. The third terminal here, that is a light that doesn't, you can add an indication light here that doesn't come with a kit. Some have done that, where anytime the 2 batteries connect together, a light comes on and lets you know it's working properly. I've opted not to use that light. What I will do is when I first get it set up, I'll take a little test light, touch here into a negative. When I crank it over, see if the light comes on to let me know it is doing its function. It's connecting the two batteries. I'm not actually going to install the light permanently, so I see it come on every time I crank the Ranger, but it wouldn't hurt. It'll let you know that's always functioning properly in case it quits. So, okay, one other thing I wanted to mention, once you know which orientation you're going to put this here, go ahead and connect the two cables that attach to the left side. And the orientation I chose is going to be the two shorter wires. Once you get this in here, trying to get both of these to fit on this terminal on the other side and that washer and thread that screw on is a complete pain. I'm not going to tell you how much time I spent trying to do it, but if you go ahead and put that on before you actually mount this to the Ranger, it's going to save you a lot of hassle. Okay, one more thing here. I noticed you couldn't see this in very well prior, but I originally had this black wire on the right side, which is the ground. I have moved it to the left side, and this orientation should be on the left side. And now I've actually ran the middle connection over to the solenoid. Back here, that white wire runs all the way down, and that allows the auto start function where it pulls from both batteries. Okay, also one other thing, when this thing was shipped to me, it came with this little black cap on it. Get that in there. Of course, it was much longer. It covered these entire terminals. They're kind of long and a little bit flimsy, and I don't like having that much exposed, so I just ran this, cut it in half with my bandsaw, because it had a cap on the end, so I could just slide it back over there. Stiffens them up a little bit. And again, this black wire will be on the left side in this orientation, and the solenoid wire will be in the middle. Okay, at this point, I've actually completed all the wiring. Over here, here's the fuse panel that I've installed. It has a couple of holes here to mount. They almost lined up with a couple of holes that were pre-existing on the Ranger, enough for me to get them in there and secure that with a couple of screws. If you just wanted this to be hot all the time, just like this terminal here, for this you would just simply run a hot from here down to the terminal on the fuse panel and then ground it like I did back to the battery. Of course, as mentioned before, I only wanted this to be hot when my key was on. So I've come off this terminal. I come off the top, simply where I'm going to mount this. From the top, through the fuse holder, and over to the relay. That's simply going to be the on and off switch. There's a little diagram here. I don't know how well you can make that out. Each of these terminals are labeled 1, 2, 3, and 5. I don't know what happened to 4. But anyway, so coming off the hot side, I went in number 3. Come out number 5, and then over to the terminal on the fuse panel. Now, for the relay to work, simply it needs another source of power to tell it when to cut on. Using my voltmeter, I did learn that already installed on the Polaris Ranger are 2 terminals here. This is only hot when the key is on. So, top one's hot, bottom one's negative. So I use that to run over to the relay, and that goes in 1 and 2. So simply when I cut the key on, it will tell the relay to cut the switch on, which still allow power to pass from my auxiliary battery down to the fuse panel, and then when I kill the key, it will shut that back off. Okay, here's the completed project. Everything does seem to work correctly. I try to tidy things up a little bit. I've got my fuse holder and relay mounted back there on the frame. Here's the additional fuse panel I added, separator. So I believe I'm done. Now remember, if you found this on YouTube, I'd definitely head over to prcforum.com, read any other post other members have made in case they have a different way of doing things, maybe a better way of doing things. But other than that, I think we're good to go.